Basketball fans, welcome back. So Petro de Luanda are back into the BAL finals, and Al Ittihad, they got stopped in the most brutal way possible. So even before we start, I just want to say this. So I had put a lot of faith in the Al Ittihad side, especially the way they played in the regular season. They were 6-0. In the first game in the quarterfinals, they suffered a scare against FS Rabat, and I feel like the pressure mounted there, and they tried to avoid any mistakes. And Petro de Luanda were able to go ahead and take advantage of that, because in this game, this was the worst I've seen Al Ittihad look in the whole 8 games I've seen. And right now they have an 8-1 record. So this was a sad situation, and I never expected Al Ittihad to fall like this, because in history we have seen Egyptian teams go ahead to win it all. We saw what Zamalek did in season one, the Al Ahly team from Egypt in season three, and now season five we had Al Ittihad. Would they be able to finish their historic run? I mean, they just got stopped in the worst way possible. And even looking at the manner in which they got stopped was the most embarrassing, because what was the whole unbeaten streak for if they couldn't be able to win the most important game, and the game that was the most vital for them to be able to challenge for a championship, they lost it. And that was the most I can say it was the most gut wrenching thing. I must say, give all credit to Petro. I mean, somewhat I wrote them off a bit, especially the way they looked against APR. Got limited to 57 points, but they're able to redeem themselves against USM. I actually picked USM to beat Petro, but man, I was familiar with Petro, but I didn't think that they were championship worthy given like how they were playing. But nonetheless, they're able to beat Petro, and they're able to beat Aliti, a team that I had put them as the favorites to win it all. So yeah, Petro back to the finals. Never underestimate the defending champions. I mean, we have seen defending champions fall during the postseason. Case in point, a team like the US Monastir, they fell in the postseason. They couldn't be able to get the job done. So you could see Petro, they're insisting, and they're knocking at that back to back, and they have a shot at this one. So this is a tough one, because Petro de Luanda not only dominated in scoring productivity, but also rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. They looked like the team that had the upper hand in this matchup, given the fact that the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year of BAL Season 4, Lual Ashwil, he was there on the team for Al Ittihad. Still did not make any difference, because Kendrick John Ray, he dropped 21 points. Abu Bakar Gaku stepped up for a strong 17. Patrick Garner, he had 14. And Patrick Garner, not only was he third in scoring, but he also first in total rebounds. And he had eight total rebounds in that. And Solo Diabate, he had 5 assists in this one. So Lual Aushil, he led in total rebounds with only 6 and 7 assists. And he was second in scoring with 16. So Majok Deng, he led Al Ittihad in scoring, but it wasn't enough. He only had 17. And you could see for the first time, Al Ittihad was getting contained, and there was no stopping this team at all. And the Petro de Luanda team, they couldn't be stopped. They were hitting the three balls, and they were able to knock down more threes than Al Ittihad. So Al Ittihad, and as an Egyptian team, I was expecting them to come back with that style of the North African basketball that happens in Egypt. But given the fact that this is a club level, this is a club team, the system is different, and the new signings that they got were not able to fit the mold. And even with the signing of Ashwil, I thought that this guy would be the difference maker, especially in the postseason. But boy, was I wrong, because this guy hadn't looked the same. He didn't look as dominant as he played for when he played for the Al Ahly Benghazi team last year. So yeah, I thought that this was the solution for Alitia to go ahead and go all in for the title, and yeah, they're gonna miss out on that. So this was a very disappointing matchup. I personally felt like Al Ittihad, even going into this matchup, they had what it took to go ahead and win this, but they failed, and they failed spectacularly in this one. And I don't know where they go from here, because even for that third place spot, it's not a given, because they're going to have a matchup against a hungry APR team. And this is how they looked. We saw the warning signs of the way they looked against the FS Rabat. Even the game went to overtime, courtesy of Nisre Zuzua when he hit that 3 to send the game to overtime. That was the first scare. And Ittihad, when they had that first scare, they were supposed to go back to the drawing board and try to fix up how they play. They had 2 games to rest before this game, and they needed to figure out strategies to be able to beat a Petro de Luanda team. But looking at this game, I don't think they did any scouting. They did virtually nothing, because if you look at this game, you will see there were so many mistakes. The stars did not even show up in this one. Lual Ashwil, he was poor in this game. Majok Deng, he was poor. Anas Mahmoud looked like a shell of his former self. The man only had a dud game. In 20 minutes of play, he had a dud game of 6 points, 3 or 5 shooting from the field. He was virtually unplayable. Lual Ashwil, he was done for in this game. And the game plan that Petro de Luanda had to be able to take apart this Ittihad side was rock solid, because not only were they able to dominate from the 3 ball, but they were able to go ahead and have all the other players involved, because we had multiple players scoring 10 points or more. We had one player, Kendrick John Ray, scoring 21 points, and the productivity of Abubakar Gaku was the difference, because he hit some timely shots down the stretch that really helped. Yannick Moreira, he didn't have that eye-popping game, but it was mostly team basketball. Gaston Domingos is there to suit up, and he might be that secret weapon, but he didn't suit up in this one, because Chile Danda was effective, especially when it came down to having experience. But in this one, he produced a dud game, but it was all team basketball in there. He didn't even lead in assists. He only had 3 assists, because even in scoring, he only had he was 1 of 4, and only 7 points, and he was 4 of 4 from the line. So 4 of his 4 points came from the line, and he only had 1 3-pointer made. So yeah, it was team basketball all through. And I must say, never underestimate the power of a champion. Petro de Luanda, I somewhat wrote them off, especially with the way they looked in the club, in the classification games. And looking at how they played, I wasn't impressed, and I didn't think that they had a shot at even going ahead and making it all the way to the finals, because they had to go up against 2 strong teams in USM at the time. And looking at who they met in Ittihad, who they made quick work of, they showed that they belong and they can be able to go ahead and do it. I know Petro have been a team that are great. They have been finishing either top 3 or top 4. And looking at the way the team changed, the roster changed, I didn't have full confidence in them going ahead and winning. And they also have another battle. They have to match up against an Al Tripoli side who are very good at, playing well. And there's a high likelihood that Sub-Saharan team can win again in the BAL finals, because the odds were stacked against any Sub-Saharan team. Because if you look closely, you will see that 75% of the teams competing in the BAL postseason were mostly from North Africa, not Sub-Saharan Africa. The only Sub-Saharan African teams were Angola, APR, and Rivers Hoopers come from West Africa. So that's from Sub-Saharan. So looking at that stat, so the only 3 teams that are not coming from North Africa. So the odds are really stacked against that. But that didn't phase Angola, kept Club Petro de Luanda. So they went ahead and did them thinkable. They were able to go back to back in the postseason, and they're able to go ahead and become the first ever back-to-back team. That is if they win. And in this postseason, they made these things interesting, because they are going to be adding and awarding a championship ring. Hopefully, in the course of the future, they can be engraving the name of the team that has won, similar to what we've seen in the NBA. So the ring concept is great. Hopefully, they can be able to give the other 4 champions rings, because if they give this one and the other 4 champions are not given rings, it's just going to be a funny situation. But all in all, Petro de Luanda dominated in rebounds, assists, steals, points from turnovers, fast break points, second chance points, and bench points. And they made Ittihad look below average in how they played. And honestly, I mean, somewhat I can say that the Ittihad side felt comfortable in how they played, and they didn't feel like there was a need to change the way they played. And their complacency, because they're used to winning a lot. If you look at their recent form, you can see that they won a lot of games. They didn't see the need of even changing the way they play. So they assume that Petro de Luanda are just going to have a poor game similar to what we saw against Creole Star and APR, especially APR. The Alitian side thought that the Petro de Luanda side are going to look like the way they match up against APR. So yeah, it is what it is. So Petro are back in the finals, and for the first time, they might go back to back. And this game was great. It was a high stakes game. So I've seen this game had the highest attendance so far with 4,615. And I like the way Petro de Luanda played. They knocked down the timely threes, and they were able to go ahead and make Ittihad work. And looking at how poorly Ittihad played, I'm not even confident they can be able to even beat APR in the third place game. I'm not writing them off too quick like that, but the way they looked like a beatable team. I mean, the Ittihad side did not exhibit any fight similar to what we saw against the FS Rabat in the first round. Maybe it was their egos getting bruised if they lost in the first round, but they showed a lot of urgency in that. They didn't show any urgency in this game, especially them being limited to only 12 points in the third quarter. I knew for a fact that it's going to be a long game for these people. So, yeah, I mean, shout out to Petro de Luanda. I mean, I've been following this team for the past 5 years, and I must say I've been impressed with Petro, especially the way they won last year, firing Jose Neto mid-season in BAL season 4, and they're able to go ahead and win it all. And right now they're back into the BAL finals with a chance of going back to back. And the only team in their way is an Al Ahly Tripoli side who are very hungry, coming from the same country that they beat last year in Libya. And I mean, it's a story that you can't script it this well. And as for Al Ittihad, I mean, how do they? What do they do? How do they go from here? So they have so much pressure. I mean, BAL is once. You have to make sure to play the game well in the postseason, and you just fail. So it is what it is. So do drop me your comments down in the comment section down below. What you think about this game? What you think about BAL so far? And I'm out. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out.